Hello, dreamers and citizens of the democratic civilization game. This is the inaugural episode of Democraciv Question Period, a show dedicated to showing the state of the Civ as it currently stands and holding our elected officials to account through the reporting of facts and asking tough questions. We'll start with a quick description of this whole project that we are calling the Democratic Civilization. This project is to play a full game of Civilization 5 by having a democratically elected government make all decisions and have that government be accountable to the citizens through periodic elections. Currently, there have been heated elections and debate, a proactive and independent press, and even a lobbying group set up to promote changes to the laws of the Hexlands. The subreddit, r/Democraciv, will be the main stepping off point for all discussions. If you want to participate in this grand democratic experiment, go there. You will also find plenty of information on the sidebar of the sub, which will talk about the current laws, the current government, and all the other goodies that will make pundits prognosticate about things we can't know. All I know is this will be epic. Now on to the state of the Civ. The current government is composed of 5 ministers. Their term limits are 20 turns, and they can set policy and progress the game. Policies are set with the majority of minister support, while constitutional change must have 3/5 support from the ministers, and a 50% popular vote. There are currently 4 laws in effect. The Public Works Law describes how gold and gold per turn will be allocated. The Impeachment Law describes how to remove a minister if they are breaking the rules. The city naming law is, well, the way we'll name cities. The mayor law defines the mayor position and how the mayor will be elected. It is also a hot topic at the moment as elections are proceeding right now. I can't stress this enough. Go join the Reddit to participate, whether it's by endorsing and campaigning for your favorite candidate or by becoming a member of the press or even starting your own Polish interest group to influence policy from outside the government. Join the Democraciv today. While elections for mayor are ongoing, or maybe nearing their end by the time this shows up on the YouTubes, previous elections have already taken place. The results put into power the 5 ministers of Races Me, Mr. Dillon, Best Towel You, Lace Demonian, and Monty Mole the Dog. Shortly thereafter, Races Me resigned from his position, so he was replaced by Servo, who would receive the next highest amount of votes during the election. We all wish these 5 ministers good luck during their term, which should include scouting at many barbarous times. And now we will proceed with screenshots of the first 4 turns and captions provided by PlatFleece. The ministry has decided to use Poland as the civ of choice. We will be starting in the Vanilla Earth map, playing on Immortal difficulty and with the quick length. Time victory is disabled for this game. We're also starting with a start bias, a huge map, and 12 random opponents. And so the capital Rulay is founded. Although the image does not show it, Rulay was founded right on top of some cows. Our Civ begins production of scouts and researches pottery. Here you can see the Civ's current production, growth, citizen management, etc. While it is still quite early, it should give you an indication of how we are doing so far. I would also like to point out that our settler began 1 tile to the right on the Tundra, and it was decided to be moved onto the cows. The warriors scout to the east, and by turn 3 discover some ruins just a few tiles to the south. We have discovered and explored ruins that gave us mining. Our scout has been built and is exploring westwards. Our Civ begins production of a monument in the meantime, with the warrior heading towards the ruins. And that is the state of the Civ after 4 turns. We were very lucky to be able to sit down, face to face, well, with a computer screen and up to a few thousand kilometers separating, Mr. Dillon, who was interviewed by PlatFleece. I'd like to thank both Mr. Dillon and PlatFleece for getting this interview organized. It's a first of its kind, but definitely won't be the last. You can find the full unedited video in the description. I'm going to use the royal we here, but by we I mean PlatFleece. We asked Mr. Dillon about how he felt the start of the sub/government is going.
Most of you joined after the post on r/civ subreddit, which was recently. Before that, we had roughly 170 subscribers, and most people were heavily involved in the political process, and that made stuff a lot easier because they watched everything developed as it went, so it was less of a surprise when they saw dramatic laws being changed and stuff like that. Stuff really worked. I mean, all the ministers, we only had 9 candidates for the ministry, and it was some votes were close, but if you look at the votes, I believe we had the system set up where you choose your top 5. The number 1 would get 1 point, your number 2 would get 0.8 points, and so on. That was how the original voting was set up. So if you looked at it, a lot of I believe racist me had about 25 points. I had about 23 points. And then the next person under that, I think, had 18 points. So it was a very, very large difference.
He mentioned racism, and so we asked him to talk about who he is a bit and some of the history through the election.
Basically, Racist.me's whole platform was to try to get the citizens involved. That's why he won by such a landslide. He wanted to get the citizens involved, and a lot of the ministers, when we discussed this, we endorsed him specifically because we wanted somebody to be able to keep the citizens involved. For example, I believe my platform was to sort of keep everything, since there were 5 ministers, I would sort of act almost as a tiebreaker to try to settle any arguments. Although, I mean, not sadly. Luckily, there haven't been any arguments so far, so I haven't got to do much for that. We really wanted Racist.me because Racist.me his platform was sort of different than all of us, but not different enough that it would cause arguments. He just operated on a different idea, which was to allow citizens. But he stepped down, bringing in Servo. And Servo, I'm really glad it was Servo. I actually voted for Servo as my first pick because Servo he's a talented minister, he knows what he's doing.
Parties, unions, and interest groups seem to be a hot topic, so we asked him to talk about their rise.
First of all, you gotta understand that I'm coming at it a bit from 2 different directions. One, as an admin of the subreddit, who is definitely not supposed to have anything to do with politics. I've already made that pretty clear. But as an admin, I want community involvement. I want stuff to get sparked up and interesting, and the political parties are definitely doing that. As a minister, I don't think that they're any problem, but I also don't want to take a part in any of them because I don't know what's going on with them, to be honest. I'm kind of letting them sort out their own thing. So, I mean, I definitely think they're interesting. I'm really glad that they exist. I think they're really cool personally. As a minister, I think I'm just going to try to avoid them. And then as an admin, I'm going to encourage them, but I want them to develop along by themselves.
With the first 4 turns in the books, we asked him to describe how he thought the game started.
It's definitely not ideal. Basically, I'll give you a rundown of what happened. We spawned in, and we kind of all looked at it. We saw the gems and the salt were obviously most interesting, but the only problem is the gems were on Tundra. So we wanted to settle near enough the gems that we could access it early, but we didn't want to get too close to have to make a good chunk of our territory useless Tundra. So eventually we decided that we should obviously move the warrior. Moving the warrior did not give us enough information to make a decision because we really wanted to settle on a hill. But we couldn't find any hills. We decided that settling on the gems is a bad idea because most of our territory would be Tundra. So basically we decided to settle on the cows because the cows would give us a nice food bonus, a little bit of production bonus, and it was in the middle of grassland and a forest. So that would give us access to production from the forest and food from the grassland. It was also within range of the deer, salt, and gems, if I believe. And there were also a few hills, but those are a couple tiles away, so we wouldn't be able to access them right off the bat.
And what the plan for the Civ is at the moment.
Normally, if you have a great start, you can tell what you're going to do based off of your start, but our start is kind of weird. I'm thinking, I personally tried to get everyone to play wide, but 4 out of 5 of the ministry, everyone else wanted to play tall, so I mean, I'm not going to say no to that. We're playing tall.
We asked him to describe what he hopes to see in the future, in particular when his term is up and others have taken over the ministry to put their own imprint on the Civ.
I cannot wait to see that day when people besides me are ministers, because I mean, all the ministers currently are veterans that were here from the very beginning that like founded this, especially Towel, because Towel literally did found this, and then I was the first moderator besides him and Racist Me. I was one of the moderators. So yeah, we basically come from a different standpoint as everybody else. We sort of created this government and we created it in a way that we could support it, but eventually we're going to move on, and it's going to be very interesting watching from a different point of view. I'll probably just focus on just doing the admin stuff on the subreddit. It's going to be very interesting to watch from a different point of view and seeing all these ministers and seeing all the problems that they have. And it's going to be painful knowing that I can't intervene because I'm going to want to. I know that. But, I mean, I'll probably maybe even join a political party if those are a thing.
Finally, we asked him to talk about his hopes for this game, this sub, and this community.
I want it to sort of behave like a real first world government would without copying a first world government. Because we're different than a first world government. We're different than a regular Western government, you know? We don't, I mean, we're playing a video game and they're working on real life. You know, it's very different. They have a lot of issues that we don't have to deal with, such as like working on economy and like, I don't know, laws that the citizens do, foreign relations. None of that is really a thing for us. So it's a very different environment. But the base idea of checks and balances and stuff is something that in my initial plan that I had written up a long time ago was a thing that kind of just developed itself without me specifically trying to copy like the U.S. government, for example. What I really want to see is our own government that, in a way, conforms to current world government. Because, I mean, it's obvious current world governments know what they're doing more than us. So I think it'd be very interesting if we sort of went along our own path and ended up closely resembling one of those governments that definitely knows what they're doing. Because, I mean, all governments start off rough, and we're definitely rough right now. It's going to be very interesting to see how things turn out. I mean, months later, even maybe, I don't know, year later, I'd like to listen back on this interview and see how different everything is.
One last time, I'd like to thank both Mr. Dillon and PlatFleece for their help in getting this interview done on short notice. I'd also like to thank PlatFleece for helping put this show together, whether it was help with the script, graphics, or getting the interviews done, all while he was very active in the sub. I appreciate it very much. And don't forget to click the link below to join the sub and have your say on the future of the civilization.